Hi, I'm Diana Porter here at Russell Feed and Supply in Decatur, Texas, and I'm an RPS. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the high octane supplements for your livestock and your show stock. So I have with me my co-host, Gina Bagby with Purina. And then I have Steve Bradshaw. He's also here with Russell Feed, and he's also going to help talk with this. So Gina, you can tell about yourself.
Oh, thank you. So I'm Gina Bagby. I've been with Purina for 28 years, but not also have I been with Purina that whole time. I have a special interest on the show side. We raise show market wethers, and my son showed market lambs and market goats for a long time. So I have a lot of passion for these products.
And I'm Steve Bradshaw. I was a county extension agent and ag teacher for 30 years. My family's always been involved in raising show pigs. Had helped kids with all species, from cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, even rabbits and chickens from time to time. And supplements make the difference in the end of whether you have a winner or you have just an average animal.
So I think we're going to go ahead and slide over and start visiting about the products. So the first product that we have is the High Octane Champion Drive, and it was our original supplement actually. It's been a great product, and it still works really well, even though we've had it for a while. But it's a higher protein product that is fat neutral, so it does not burn fat, it doesn't add fat. But it's higher in protein, and so what it's designed to do is help enhance muscle. It works on all the species. It even works on poultry and rabbits. But remember that it takes having that genetic potential to express.
Yeah, one thing I would add about Champion Drive is it's a really good product. Once you get your animals in and you get them kind of acclimatized and through the stress of being changing from their feeds to whatever the breeder fed to what you're going to feed, you can start lining them out on Champion Drive. It's a product like Gina said, I would be on from the get-go. It will also enhance bloom and just give your animals a fresher look. And then the only time you might consider getting off of it is when you start switching to some of the other products that Purina makes that for whatever reason your animal might need to switch if they're putting on too much finish or not growing like you want them to.
So one thing too that I would add on the Champion Drive is it works really well when you're, like a lot of my experience is on the lambs and goats, but if you're having to hold an animal like you've got them to their point, you don't want to go past that for the show, you can reduce the amount of feed you're feeding, add more Champion Drive, and it keeps that animal from burning muscle when you're reducing their feed intake.
Yeah, and that's also true with pigs and cattle. You can start holding one and they start to lose that fresh look. You can increase the amount of Champion Drive and it'll maintain their freshness and their look, even though you've reduced their calorie income.
So we're going to move on while we're talking about the protein supplements. We're going to talk about Fitter 35, which is in the pail, and Fitter 52 at the same time because they do the same stuff. So this is one that you would not continue to feed Champion Drive because we're switching to another protein supplement. But this one is designed to burn fat. So it's really useful on those animals that you've maybe got too bloomy and you need to peel a little bit of fat off. Sometimes like those off-breed sheep, or we have a lot of animals on feed for a really long time. But it also, as it pulls some of that fat back, it helps enhance muscle shape. The difference to me between the 35 and the 52 is this was the original product. So the 52, you can either feed a little bit less and do the same job that the 35 does, or you can feed the same amount of Fitter 52 and it's a little more aggressive.
Yeah, and a lot of us were feeding lysine and stuff like that to burn fat and make animals more descript. And the problem with pure lysine is that if you get too much of it in their diet, you're going to burn up their gut and have some issues. This is a lot less aggressive way that works extremely well. Fitter 35, if you're going to be on it for a long period of time and you're trying to shape an animal that's over conditioned, you can really put some top shape in them while burning some jowl fat and some of the brisket fat out of them. And then if you realize you're too fat and you don't have much time to get it right, you want to go straight to 52, because if you only have a couple of weeks before the show, this is going to be much more aggressive. It's going to happen a lot faster, so you don't want to be on it near as long. But if you're managing them over a longer period of time, the Fitter 35 is the way to go.
I always tell people, don't get too worried about getting animals too fat sometimes, because we have some tools to help with that, and fatter animals for sure look better than too skinny. So the next supplement we have is probably one of the other oldest high octane supplements. This is Power Fuel, and it comes in a nugget. It's good for all species, and I would say that especially the ruminants, it's probably the more palatable fat source that we sell. But the nice thing about it too is it has Tasco in it, so once again on some of those animals, like during the summer, it actually helps a little bit with heat stress.
Yeah, and Power Fuel is just good for, you know, putting condition. You have that animal that's not performing well, you don't have to worry about burning fat. You need to worry about putting some on. It's a good product that they can be on for a long period of time.
Yeah, and always, like especially on those ruminants with the fat, be sure that you start slow and work up. They really like the product, but you can't you can't add everything all at once. You got to work up to the level that you're going to feed. So heavyweight,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you talk about it.
We'll talk about heavyweight a little bit. And heavyweight is really for putting on weight. When you need to put fast gain, you're behind the 8 ball, you get to your pig or your steer or your lamb or your goat, it's not going to make weight, it's going to have issues with that. You want to start pouring heavyweight to them for putting pounds on at a more rapid weight. You know, one of the more common products for putting on weight is Paline, and we're seeing a lot of lessened use of Paline because of the issues with stiffness and joint problems. And heavyweight's a great product to put some pounds on an animal at a very quick rate when you're run up against time for getting ready for the show.
So it's like a 70% fat, and it looks a lot like milk replacer. Probably heaviest used on the pigs because they actually really like the taste. Ruminants are a little bit more picky with it, and sometimes you might even have to mix it with water. It does mix with water well, and either drench it or kind of make like a yogurt that you could put on the feed. They might take it a little better.
And then depth charge is a little deceptive in the way that it's labeled, because you think of depth of body and it's really more width of body. The best example I think is like in a show steer, when you're needing to put cover over their ribs and spread their ribs apart, this is the product you're going to want to feed. Depth charge will really open up their center body cavity. Same thing for pigs, lambs, goats. And it's, I'll let her tell you a little bit more about the product.
Yeah, so it just, like if you take a certain amount of it and put it with water, you'll just see it expand, and it expands rapidly. This is a product you want to practice with at home. It is one that you can feed day of show. So especially like on pigs and cattle where you want a lot of that fill. But like Steve said, it helps a little bit with some rib expansion. So that's when you would feed it a little longer term. You can use it some in lambs and goats. It's not as commonly used, but you know, we want a lot of rib shape with them, so you can work with it to try that for fill at the show. It's not as important, but could also be a useful tool in lambs and goats when we're holding them and maybe wanting to make sure we aren't drawing them up too much. So we'll move over to these products.
We'll start with Ultra Full. Just like the depth charge, it works, but it drops that flank in those animals. When you're wanting to have a fuller, deeper bodied look, Ultra Full is a great additive to start putting in your feed, to start dropping that back flank in pigs and cattle, just to really open them up and give them a fuller, better look on show day.
And it is progressive in how it works. So unlike the depth charge where you can see the fill right away, this product takes some time before you start to see that drop in the flank or that underlying change. So you want to be sure that you give it, you know, I give it 2, 3, 4 weeks depending on the species. We use it a lot also with lambs because a lot of lambs need a flank drop. So it's a pretty useful tool on especially 3 of the species.
And Powerfill is one of the only ones that's only for swine. I use this extensively in my programs, especially feeding show gilts. If you want a product that's going to put on weight, put on body, it can be fed as a sole ration, or you can use it as a supplement. I liked it as a supplement. You have to be careful. They'll actually gain extremely fast on it, so you have to watch that you don't put too much weight, especially if you try to feed it to a barra or something. You could get weighed out pretty quick, but it will put a tremendous amount of body and feel in a hog, and also can be used when you're holding them as a great source of protein that still gives them that full, deep body look.
Yeah, remember when we're holding these animals that you do need to make sure you add protein back, and that's where the Powerfill works, because animals, if they don't have enough energy, they're going to pull from their muscle, and muscle is the last thing that we want to lose on these show animals. So, and he talked about fat. I just want to take one step back real quick. The Ultra Full does have some fat in it. Like, unlike Depth Charge, which is pretty much all fill product, the Ultra Full does have a little fat. So when you add it to your feed, keep that in mind, because it does add a little bit of energy.
Yeah, and anytime you're feeding high fat feeds, you got to be careful that you're not adding too much fat, because animals will tend to go off feed completely if you have too much fat in their diet, and you almost got to take them off of everything and restart them. So don't push them too hard, too fast. Just do everything in moderation is what I tell people until they get adjusted to what they're eating in their diet. Golden Ticket, as long as we're talking about fat, we're going to talk about Golden Ticket. And if you're wanting to put cover on an animal, this is the Golden Ticket. It will put fat on one fast. It's a cheap source to keep adding fat as you go through. Some people talk about products that put fat on right before a show, but some of those are expensive. For a Golden Ticket, you can feed over a longer period of time and get that cover, that desired look you want. You know, like in show steers, when you go, they say you need to have 6/10 back fat over the 13th rib, and when a judge is handling that, you really want to have 1 inch, because I don't want them debating whether he has enough or not. So fat is extremely important in show cattle, also in other animals too, but more so in them, of getting that cover on. And Golden Ticket does probably as good a job as anything of getting that uniform finish look in our show steers and heifers.
I think it's a really exciting product on especially the goat side too, because getting a goat fat can sometimes be a difficult task because they're really picky eaters. If you start slow with this, goats actually really like this product, and you will see them bloom quick. I might also add that it actually has some stuff for muscle enhancement as well. So, like if you're feeding Golden Ticket, you probably don't need to feed Champion Drive or Power Fuel, because this is doing the job of both of those supplements. And to me, it's a little bit of a hybrid supplement, because you know, with these products over here, we're talking ounces and not very many ounces. This product, you're going to feed just a little bit more of. It's not necessarily the whole feed, but like you might sub, like on a goat, you might take out 1/4 to 1/3 of the diet and put that in.
Okay, the next product we're going to talk about is High Octane Alleviate, and this is a product that's really good for animals that are having some internal issues with their GI tract and stuff, especially swine. Like when we see a lot of ulcers and stuff, and you'll see a pig that's vomiting after he eats. This is a product you're going to want to get on to kind of help keep their gut right and keep them from having those kind of issues.
It also works in ruminants as well. I think maybe it shines with the pigs, but in ruminants, if you have some that are just gassy, get uncomfortable after they eat their grain, this will help increase the pH, so it helps make the gut less acidic, or the rumen. And so it works really well. It's not like a probiotic or prebiotic or anything. It truly is just helping the pH in that rumen. So it's kind of it's a cool product. Really quick, one product that we did not have sitting out is the Clarifly. And so if you have flies in your barn and have been struggling with that, a newer Purina product that we have is the Clarifly. And it's a very low inclusion rate, and it just goes through the animals, and it's approved for all the species, all the main 4 species, but it goes into their manure, and what it does is it keeps the flies from hatching. So it's a great tool with your management in your barn to help reduce the fly population and keep animals more comfortable.
A lot of the products that are similar to Clarifly would reside in the animal some and not all pass through. Clarifly is one of the first ones that actually goes completely through. The animal doesn't retain any of that, doesn't affect their growth rate, it doesn't affect them at all. It goes all the way through into their manure and only affects the larva of the fly so that we don't see that big hatch. So feeding in today's world, feeding show pigs or goats or lambs or steers, you sometimes start to feel kind of like a chemist. You're mixing different supplements and different feed lines, but just because you're only using a high octane supplement, maybe you're not on Purina feed, or vice versa, you're feeding a feed and you're using a different supplement, you still qualify for the rewards program, and I'm going to let Diana tell you a little bit more about that.
So Purina has a rewards program, and you can sign up online, and they have all kinds of prizes that you can win. You can go to purinamills.com/honor roll and just sign up. And thank you for joining us for our program. So come into any Russell feed or call any Russell feed, and there's somebody there to help you with picking out or helping you with any of the products that they have on their supplements for your livestock. Thank you so much.